The city plunged into darkness without warning. One moment, the familiar hum of the refrigerator, the soft glow of the TV, the lights spilling from the street lamps. The next, absolute silence and an inky blackness that felt heavy, suffocating. My wife, Sarah, lit a candle, its single flame casting long, dancing shadows across the living room walls. Our two kids, 10-year-old Leo and 6-year-old Maya, were huddled together on the couch, their faces illuminated by the flickering light. "Just a power outage, guys," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Probably a transformer blew. It'll be back on in no time." Leo nodded, trying to be brave for his little sister, but Maya was already starting to get antsy. She burrowed her face into a cushion. "It's too dark, Daddy." "I know, sweetie, but we're all together. It's like an adventure, right? Like camping indoors." We pulled out some board games, the old-fashioned kind that didn't need batteries. For a while, it worked. The clatter of dice and our forced laughter filled the void left by the city's hum. But as the hours stretched on, the initial novelty wore off, replaced by a creeping unease. The darkness outside the windows wasn't just dark. It was absolute. No distant headlights, no porch lights, no moon. It felt like the world beyond our home had simply ceased to exist. That's when Maya started. She was staring into the unlit hallway, her eyes wide. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice trembling. "There's a man in the hall." I followed her gaze. Nothing but a deeper patch of black. "There's no one there, honey. It's just shadows." "No," she insisted, shaking her head, her little hand gripping my arm tight. "He's tall, and his arms are too long." Sarah and I exchanged a worried glance. It was her imagination, of course. The dark plays tricks on you, especially a child. "Maya, come on," Sarah said softly, pulling her into a hug. "Let's finish the game." But Maya wouldn't let it go. She kept glancing over her shoulder, flinching at every creak of the old house settling. 10 minutes later, she gasped again. "He's in the kitchen now. He's looking at us." I stood up, grabbing a heavy flashlight from the drawer. "All right, that's enough. I'll prove to you there's nothing there." I clicked it on, the powerful beam cutting a sharp cone through the darkness. I swept it down the hallway. Empty. I walked to the kitchen, a little annoyed, and shined the light into every corner. Cabinets, counters, the back door. All normal. "See, Maya? Nothing, just our kitchen." I walked back into the living room, a triumphant, "I told you so" on my lips, but it died in my throat. Maya was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Leo wasn't looking at me. He was staring at the window. "What is it, Leo?" I asked, my heart starting to pound a little faster. He didn't answer for a moment. He just pointed a shaky finger at the large pane of glass. "There was a face," he whispered. "When your light passed the window, it was looking in." My blood ran cold. This wasn't like Maya. Leo was logical, grounded. He didn't make things up. "What did it look like?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't know," he said, his voice cracking. "It was pale, and it didn't have any eyes." I moved slowly toward the window, my flashlight feeling suddenly inadequate. I shined it out into the backyard. The beam illuminated our swing set, the old oak tree, the fence line. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. It felt like 1,000 unseen eyes were fixed on our little house, on our little circle of candlelight. A loud scratch echoed from upstairs. It sounded like nails dragging down a wooden door. Sarah gasped, pulling both kids closer to her. "What was that?" "Probably just a branch hitting the roof," I said, the lie tasting like ash in my mouth. There was no wind tonight. The air was unnaturally still. "It wasn't a branch," Leo said, his eyes glued to the ceiling. "It came from my room." I had to be the protector. I had to be brave for them. "Stay here," I commanded, my voice firmer than I felt. "Lock the door behind me and don't open it for anyone but me." I grabbed the heaviest thing I could find nearby, a cast-iron fireplace poker. Armed with the poker and my flashlight, I stepped into the hallway and pulled the living room door shut behind me. The click of the lock sounded deafeningly loud in the silence. Now, I was alone in the darkness. The beam of my flashlight felt like a lifeline, the only thing keeping the oppressive black at bay. I took the stairs one at a time, each creak of the old wood amplifying the frantic beat of my heart. Scratch. There it was again, closer this time. It was coming from Maya's bedroom, not Leo's. My hand trembled as I reached for the doorknob. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open and swept the light inside. The room was empty. Her pink wallpaper, the menagerie of stuffed animals, her little bed. Everything was in its place. I checked the closet under the bed. Nothing. I was about to dismiss it as my own frayed nerves when my light caught something on the wall. Long, deep gouges were carved into the plaster, running from the ceiling almost to the floor. They were fresh. Little bits of plaster dust littered the carpet below. There were 3 distinct lines, as if a giant 3-fingered hand had clawed its way down the wall. And at the bottom, just above the baseboard, was a small, dark smear. I knelt, touching it cautiously. It was thick, sticky, and it smelled faintly of ozone and damp earth. It wasn't paint. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, poker raised, my light cutting wildly through the darkness. Nothing. But the door, which I had left wide open, was now only ajar. Something had been in the hallway. Something had moved while my back was turned. My breath hitched. They were inside the house with us. I backed out of the room slowly, sweeping the light back and forth, my knuckles white on the poker. The silence was worse than the scratching. It was a loaded, waiting silence. I made my way back downstairs, my mind racing. These weren't just shadows. Maya wasn't imagining things. They were real. Back at the living room door, I knocked softly. "Sarah, it's me." The lock clicked, and the door opened a crack. Sarah's pale, terrified face appeared. "What was it?" "Get the kids. We're going to the basement," I said, pushing my way in and locking the door again. "Now." There was no argument. The terror was palpable now. We gathered our candles, the flashlight, and a couple of blankets. The basement was our safest bet. 1 door, no windows. A concrete box. As we hurried across the living room, I saw it. For just a split second, my flashlight beam caught a figure standing at the far end of the kitchen. It was exactly as Maya had described it, impossibly tall and thin, its limbs bent at unnatural angles. Its arms were so long its fingers brushed the floor. And as my light hit it, it didn't run. It just tilted its head, a smooth, featureless face turning slowly toward me before it dissolved back into the shadows as if it were made of smoke. I shoved my family toward the basement door, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Go! Go! Go!" We scrambled down the wooden steps, and I slammed the heavy door, fumbling with the thick bolt on our side. We were safe. For now. We huddled together in the middle of the cold concrete floor, the single flashlight beam our only defense against the darkness. We could hear them now. A soft, wet shuffling from the floor above. The scrape of long limbs on hardwood. They were exploring, hunting. "Daddy, what are they?" Maya whimpered, burying her face in my chest. "I don't know," I whispered, holding my family tight. "But I think they came with the dark." The thought hit me like a physical blow. The power outage wasn't just a power outage, it was an opportunity. For them. The darkness wasn't just an absence of light, it was a habitat. A place where things that shouldn't exist could cross over. Our world, with its constant artificial light, kept them at bay. But when our lights went out, the barrier fell. We sat there for what felt like an eternity, listening to the subtle, terrifying sounds of the creatures moving through our home. A faint tapping started on the basement door. Tap, tap, tap. Slow, deliberate, and patient. Then a voice, thin and reedy, like dry leaves skittering across pavement. It was a mimicry of Maya's voice. "Daddy, let me in. I'm scared." My blood turned to ice. Leo let out a choked sob. Sarah held a hand over her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. I held my finger to my lips, shaking my head frantically. The tapping continued, a little more insistent now. The mimicry of my daughter's voice became distorted, layered with a low, guttural growl. "Let us in. We have to survive until dawn. The sun. Light is their enemy. If we can just make it until morning, the light will drive them back to whatever abyss they crawled out of." I looked at my watch. 3:14 a.m. Hours to go. The scratching started on the door, splintering the wood. They were trying to get through. I looked around the basement, my mind racing, searching for a way to fight back, a way to protect my family until the first rays of dawn broke through this endless night. The origin didn't matter right now, only survival did. And I would burn this whole house down before I let them touch my family. Thank you for watching. If this story sent a chill down your spine, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the dark. Let me know in the comments what you would do in this situation. Stay safe and stay in the light.
Thank you all for watching this here video.